All right, the joys of live TV. You gotta love it. Thanks so much, Reesha, for joining me today.
Dave, thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Exactly. It's so funny. So, welcome again, everyone. We had a little technical difficulty before, but welcome to today's episode of Inflow TV. And thanks again for tuning in live, and thanks for those tuning in on demand as well. Now, I mentioned before, it's not lost on me that this month of March is Women's History Month, and it's also my birthday month. March 18th was the day. I'm just saying. But it makes me think of our great lineup of phenomenal women in tech that have taken the time to speak with me on these past episodes, sharing their insights. And today is no exception, as I am, joined by the phenomenal Reesha Dedhia herself, our very special guest today. And Reesha, you're principal product marketing at PerimeterX, and I can't wait to dive in and learn more about your actual role there and what you're actually up to. So welcome, Reesha.
Dave, thank you. Looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much for joining me today. So I would love to get a handle on what your role is at PerimeterX and what you guys actually do.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know me, I'm a product marketing leader. I've driven product marketing at various companies over the last decade, from Cisco to Anaplan, and now I'm at PerimeterX. A little bit about PerimeterX. We're really here to keep businesses safe in the digital world. We protect a business's web and mobile applications and APIs against automated bot attacks and client-side threats.
Awesome, awesome. Now we've been in this pandemic, right, for some time now, right? It's been a year, and work has completely changed and been transformed. And so, can you speak to I guess your work culture? I know you're fairly new, but what was it like, sort of pre-pandemic, and how it changed during the pandemic till now?
Yeah, it's been interesting, Dave. I started my journey with PerimeterX a little over a year ago, right when the pandemic hit. And I remember I was in my first week at the office, my fifth day, and we all went into shelter in place. And so I can't really speak to the culture pre-pandemic.
Hmm.
However, prior to PerimeterX, when I was at Anaplan, I really relied on trust just by
Hmm.
being in the office, being around my coworkers, being able to
Yeah.
read things like body language and have those hallway conversations. And you really rely on that, especially in your first 2 weeks at a new job. And unfortunately, I didn't have the benefit of having that experience at PerimeterX. But, when I joined PerimeterX, my colleagues and my management team, they really went out of their way to make me feel comfortable. They gave me that extra time to meet
Hmm.
folks, throughout the company in different organizations,
Yeah.
and start to build those relationships, even though remote, and have those productive working relationships. And
Yeah.
our company overall, we started leveraging technologies like Slack much more effectively, to
Hmm.
stay in touch and communicate with each other. And in some ways, it's been really difficult. And I can't
Yeah.
wait to get back in the office. I can't wait to experience that in-person culture, have those in-person relationships with my coworkers. And in some ways, it's been great because we found ways to be more effective working remote. And in
Mhm.
some ways, it's leveled the playing field because I've had the same advantages and the same disadvantages as everyone else. We've just
Yeah.
all been trying to figure out this remote work thing together.
Actually, we're all trying to figure out together. You're right, right? We're all in the same boat. And funny, and with that, employee experience, has sort of risen as a huge topic now, right? And and the pandemic has put the spotlight, on sort of really prioritizing people's well-being and their mental health. Were there any sort of particular initiatives at Perimeter X that were introduced to sort of help people navigate? And feel free to elaborate as well.
Yeah, mental health's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And it's something that I've dealt with in my family for decades. And so,
Hmm.
mental health's not even just about the pandemic. I think what the pandemic has done is it shined a light on mental health, and
Yeah.
more people are talking about it. And I love that we finally are. And I really hope that progresses in the long term in the world, that
Hmm.
we keep seeing more progress around this topic, because it's a really important one and it's a really sensitive one. But having said that,
Exactly.
yeah, people were struggling. And, it's important because with the pandemic, we're all working from home and there's less boundaries. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not even just the pandemic. It's everything our country went through and is going
Yeah.
through. It was Black Lives Matters. It was the election. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're still seeing everyone around us in the world suffering from COVID. And we're all suffering through this and dealing with this
Yeah.
alone. And so
Absolutely.
what a company does to foster healthy mindsets, it's so important. A company communicating and letting us know, where they stand, and what their stance and their views are, that really makes you feel like you have an ally. And
Yeah.
and I think, that level of transparency is critical. It builds that trust. It makes you feel like you're not alone.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and, PerimeterX did an incredible job at this. They sent out frequent communications. Our CEO and leadership at the onset of the pandemic, they met with the company weekly to really be transparent and let us know how the company was doing, the good and the
Mm-hmm.
bad, what was going on with our customers, what the company's stance was with everything going on in the world. And
Yeah.
so that transparency is so important to foster a healthy mindset and a healthy well-being. Um, and they also, something that they did that I love is they sent out a survey to all
Okay.
the employees, and they really wanted to understand how each of us was doing emotionally, physically, what our specific at home work situation was like, and also what we needed in terms of support and
Yeah.
what activities just and programs that we wanted from the company to start staying connected with both each other and with the company, since things were going remote for a longer period of time. And so the
Yeah.
company really listened to the employees. They looked at the data, they looked at the responses from the survey, and then they built out the support programs and activities based on that. And so that was great. And I think that just brings you to a broader point around feeling connected.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much around clear communication and transparency about everything that's going around in the world. That's so important. And then there's that human connection that you're still
Yeah.
missing. And so how do you foster an environment where you're still able to do that? And Perimeter X again did an incredible job with this, and they found many ways to do this. And just to share a couple examples, they sent out cocktail making kits to us every single week. And so we would each, go to our doorstep and find a cocktail
Yeah.
making package. And we'd get on
Awesome.
a call every Friday at 4 p.m. And, as a company. And we just, when there's so much heaviness going on in
Yeah.
the world, it was just a light way to meet with each other, make some drinks, have some conversation, share a warm smile.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I love is, based on the survey, they realized that physical health was just as important to us as mental health. And so,
Mm-hmm.
they sent us all workout equipment, and we jumped on a Zoom and did a fitness instructor led class together. And it's
Wow.
not something you would normally do,
Yeah.
together virtually, but we all came together, and we did this positive activity together, and it really, made us feel connected. And we did something to not help only our mental health, but
Yeah.
our physical health as well. And there's also flexibility during the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic. Flexibility is everything. Some people have young kids to take care of. Some people have elderly parents to take care of. I know I do. And everyone in the world has different responsibilities that they're juggling while
Mm-hmm.
they're working from home, while they're taking care of their families, while they're experiencing the burden of everything going on in the world on their shoulders. And
Yeah.
through that, you really have to understand that every single person's situation is different, and provide them that flexibility. And Dave, gosh, this because we were chatting, but I got COVID during this time. And
Right. Yes. Please tell us about that. That's wild. And
yeah, and it was bad and it was scary. And you hear about it, but then when it happens to you, you realize just how bad it is. And I couldn't work even if I wanted to during that time. And
yeah.
the care and the love and the flexibility that PerimeterX gave me during that time, I've never seen anything like that. I mean, they
Yeah.
gave me that time I needed to recover emotionally, cover physically, mentally, and come back stronger. And it happened during the worst time. It was end of quarter, end of fiscal
Yeah.
year, sales kickoff week. And so,
Oh
everything, yeah.
no.
And so I still wanted to stay involved. So, there were moments in the day when I was feeling better, I would try
Yeah.
to jump on. And, my manager would be like, Reesha, get off the meeting, go rest, you're not working. And so,
Yeah.
not only providing me the time, but really encouraging me to take all the time I needed, and just focus on my health and focus on the long game. And
Yeah.
I think when you tie it back to the 3 points that I made around transparency, just that connectedness and that flexibility,
Hmm.
what it comes down to at the end is we're all human and we
Yeah.
should treat each other well and we should care about each other's mental health. And
Yeah.
that's so critical during this time. And I'm grateful for and I'm proud of everything PerimeterX has done in every
Hmm.
single one of those areas.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm so glad that you're feeling better. From all this, and you're still smiling and still vibrant, full of energy, and that's awesome. And it speaks to first of all your resolve and your resiliency, and it also speaks to that you're in an environment that's supporting that, right, and that's supporting you. And I think one of the big things that gets missing, and I think we missed it before, and it took a pandemic to sort of bring us to this, is that empathy in leadership is critical. There has to be empathy, and you have to have a culture of empathy, right? That's empathetic. Not to, because your employees are more than just your employees. They're mothers, fathers, right, sisters, and brothers, and so forth. And so they have a full life that's outside of what they do for you, as a company. And so when a company begins to realize that and support you and create a culture, of support, that's so important.
Absolutely.
Wow, so I'm going to talk about security, but man, that was a good conversation there just now. But so on security, no, security absolutely is a key priority, right, for every
Yeah,
CIO and IT leader that I know. And however, with the pandemic, changing behaviors and transforming business to optimize functions online, that increased traffic does come, with some risk. I'm wondering, during this whole time, did you guys see any changes in your business or demand for your solutions, customer increases during this time? People were really demanding your solutions as a company.
yeah, gosh, the pandemic's changed everything, how we do things. We don't go to restaurants as often as anymore. And when the
Hmm.
pandemic first started, we didn't go at all. And so we've really started to leverage things and rely on things like food delivery more
Yeah.
and shopping. If you want a pair of sweatpants, for the most part, you're going to go online to get those.
Yeah.
And brick and mortar stores, they've closed down. And the ones that haven't, they've really had to find a hybrid way to do things. And those stores that were already doing that well, they've just seen a surge, right, in online sales and online traffic and just shopping overall soaring. It's crazy. And with that shift to digital channels and that increase
Hmm.
in traffic, there comes an increase in risk. And
Yeah.
cyber criminals have new attack surfaces to target retailers. And so
Hmm.
online scams and online fraud have gone up. And with that, security innovation is just booming. And that's where PerimeterX plays.
Okay.
And we've seen a huge uptick in cyber criminals using bots to steal credentials and take over
Hmm.
accounts, and empty them of value, empty them of loyalty points, empty them of credits.
Yeah.
And account takeover has actually risen by 282% just in the past 12
Interesting.
months.
Yeah.
It's such a big challenge, and it's a growing challenge. Another area where there's been an uptick is cyber criminals are skimming credit card data more and more. And
Hmm.
lost revenue from card not present fraud, it's actually expected to rise to, I think it's 130 billion by 2023. So I mean,
Wow.
and it
Yeah.
was only, just to put that in perspective, it was only around 18 or 19 billion, a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. So just a huge challenge, a growing challenge. And there's been an uptick in risk all around, right? We've seen bots hoarding inventory, scraping
Hmm.
more web content, scraping more pricing content,
Yeah.
skewing analytics, scalping limited release items, and just risk overall has gone up.
Hmm.
And PerimeterX really has stepped in to protect a retailer's digital storefront from the homepage to the checkout against all of these risks by
Yeah.
detecting and blocking automated bot attacks and client-side threats. And so that helps reduce fraud. But again, security innovation just in the industry, it's overall it's booming, and I think
Yeah.
it's great because that innovation's brought a huge positive impact when it comes to better protecting both businesses and people like you and me, Dave.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, and so we're seeing, where the pandemic not only, presents this public health crisis, but also this interesting security crisis, for just people in their personal lives and for businesses.
Yep.
That's right. Now, Risha, as marketing professional, with some years in the game here, how has it been sort of navigating this, especially from product marketing perspective, a customer experience perspective?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So, one of the biggest things in marketing is it's all about connecting with your customers.
Hmm.
And I think the biggest thing there that's changed is prior to the pandemic, we met with our customers in person, whether it's customer meetings, whether it's
Yeah.
engaging with customers at events. And so the biggest thing there really has been that that's all shifted to an
Hmm.
online or virtual experience.
Yeah.
And I think one positive change that I've noticed is that it's easier to get time with people. For
Yeah.
example, executives, they're super busy, and prior to the pandemic, they were traveling a lot, and now they're working from home. And what we found is they actually have more time,
Yeah.
to meet with us. And so that's been great. And just to share a personal anecdote there, prior to PerimeterX, I was at Anaplan, and we focused on connected planning. Prior to that, I was at Cisco. I worked in data center infrastructure, focused on servers and storage. And so my
Hmm.
professional networks were extensively built out in those two areas. And when
Yeah.
I joined PerimeterX, I didn't really have a network in the security space. And so, I heavily relied on LinkedIn, and I just,
Yeah.
reached out to folks on LinkedIn to build my network. And
Yeah.
it's amazing because I've seen such a high response rate because people are working from home. Again, they're
Yeah.
traveling less, and I have started to build out this big network, and just from reaching out to folks. And so it's been great. But I think overall the good thing is that we're getting in front of a lot more people. I think
Hmm.
the bad thing is that we're still missing that human connection. And
Yeah.
you just can't replace that in-person experience and those in-person interactions. There's a level of trust and there's a level of engagement where in person where you just can't
Hmm.
replicate that. And so that's been a little difficult. When it comes to customers, I think it's just really important to remember that they're going through everything we're going through. They're an employee of their organization. They're also
Indeed.
a human working from home, in whatever situation that looks like. And so
Yeah.
they're going through all the same things. So I think, and on the other side, they're meeting with us virtually now. They're not able to meet with us in person. And so they're kind of, again, experiencing that as well. And so I think it's critical to approach conversations there with flexibility and just
Hmm.
empathy. You talked about empathy before, just,
Yeah.
even with customers, just understanding that, their situation might have a specific situation as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and yeah, exactly. So it's again sort of we talk about CX and customer experience and employee experience, but there's an overall people experience, right? That we have to sort of focus on. There is a human experience,
Hmm.
and whether those people are your employees, your customers, your ecosystem partners. Before our talk here, we were talking about sort of the pillar of experiences, right? Where it's your ecosystem partners, your employees, and your customers, and each particular segment needs to have a high valued, high touch experience, and you can't have one without the other, right? You have to, for a healthy organization, you have to have your employees, having great experiences, actually experiencing work in a good way, your customers, and also your partners as well too. So thanks for sharing that. That's really important.
Yeah.
Now, so we've been in this a year now, right? From a pandemic perspective, where we see the light at the end of the tunnel, I guess, right? In a sense, where do you see us going from here, Risha? Like, what's in the future if you could take out your crystal ball a little bit and predict?
Dave, I think it's going to be a hybrid one. I think
Yeah.
things have come too far to one end with working from home where things are going to have to somehow balance themselves out to a certain extent. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to be a hybrid environment. One positive change that I foresee and that I'm really excited about is there's going to be a lot more diversity in the industry. We're now able
Hmm.
to hire from regions that we never were before.
Yeah.
One place where I think we're going to need to put a lot more effort is just around flexibility.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is before, if you weren't in the room, you weren't in the room, and so
This is true.
yeah, and so that mindset really has to change. And I think it already has changed, but
Yeah.
we're really going to have to be more thoughtful on what that hybrid environment looks like because some folks are going to be working from home and some are going to be in person. So how do you kind of blend those two together and have one experience? So yeah, I think it's going to be a hybrid one. And I think we're really
Mhm.
going to have to work hard and be thoughtful on how to best figure that out or best define that environment.
Yeah, yeah. If you weren't in the room, you weren't in
You
the
weren't in
room.
the
I
room.
love that. Oh my God. I'm so stealing that. I'm totally taking that one. Reesha, thank you so much for joining me. I mean, and actually, you're right. And I think we're definitely going to see some changes, right? We will definitely see more of a hybrid environment, but I think, what does hybrid actually mean now, right? It's going to be more so that flexibility, as you're saying, right? Where you have to give people the ability to, work as fits them, right? Because like we were saying before, your employees are no, it's not just your employee, right? They're real people with real lives with full responsibilities, families and so forth, kids and what have you. And so you have to make sure that you take care of them. Right. And so I do see, like you see, that sort of this hybrid, more flexible environment of work. Thanks so much for joining me today, Reesha. This has been so much fun. Can't wait for us to do
Dave,
it again.
yeah, Dave, it's an honor to be here with you today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining us today with Reesha Dedhia. This was really fun. I love it. If you weren't in the room, you weren't in the room. Yeah, I'm totally stealing it. Thanks everyone. See you next time. Bye bye.